be presented.
Okay, next slide. Next slide.
Sorry.
Next slide.
The presentation outline is there. I will ask us then we continue. Permit me to ask, please and please, how many local governments we have in Nigeria? Huh? I disagree. I told the people that I'm a politician and I'm a scientist. I was giving answers like that before. But we will get to know very soon that it's not 774. If I may ask, how many sections do we have in Nigerian Constitution? Next question. In Abuja is 6 area councils. They are not local government areas. While in the 36 states, we have 600 and we have, you said 774. But if you remove the 6 area councils, because these 6 area councils are treated as local government. So if you remove the 6 out of 774, we'll be left with 768. So it's 768 local government areas that we have. Plus 6 area councils. While the Nigerian Constitution is from section 1 to section 320. I will briefly give highlights with the Nigerian Constitution for a purpose. It so happened that most of our colleagues, when they come to defend budgets, most especially during budget periods, you don't see the budget, you don't see the memo driving a source, the power, why I'm doing that. But all the MDAs at federal, at state level, everything, your powers to drive and put up every memo is in the Nigerian Constitution. Take, for instance, the section that is talking about medicals, how equipment should be there, everything. So when you are doing your budget, your power is in section 17 subsection 3D. When you are talking about environment, everything that you want to do about environment, if you are talking about tourism, culture, section 21, if you nearly everything, the way you derive your powers, now you are here, you want to put up your memo to come for a conference like this, in case there is a problem. Which section of the Nigerian Constitution is section 40? You know, so all these things are there. We were privileged to know them before because of a union participation. But as a legislator now, it's more of like my Quran and my Bible. There is no how you put up a debate. We are talking about pandemic. Which sections, where will I quote as I put up my debate? Then with these few questions, I would like to appeal and charge us that it's very important, very, very important for us once in a while, go outside our real field and touch one or two things. It will help. The next, please. Yeah. Section 1 of the Nigerian Constitution is talking about the supremacy, while Section 2 is talking about, yes, we're a Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the Section 3, you will see where I talked about 774, which you are saying so, and I said no. You will see it in Section 3 of the Nigerian Constitution, because we have 36 states, and if you sum them, it will not give you that 774. Take each state and begin to sum it, which is in the 4th schedule of the Nigerian Constitution. Next, you see from this slide now, you will see that one of the sections that I want us to get, that no matter how we present our manifesto, no matter how sweet it is, it ends with Section 14, subsection 2B, security and the welfare of our people. Outside that, nothing else again, no matter how sweet our manifesto is. So sometimes knowing these things are very, very important. It goes a long way to make you balance a bit. Go to the next. You will see that even in the section 15, it's talking about political objectives. Everything about our economy, no matter, is in section 16. Section 17 is now talking about medical. All what we'll be doing, the biosafety, and this is where we draw our powers. We at the state level, if you are doing any law that has to, sometimes you run back to some of these sections to see whether you fall within the concurrent or the exclusive list. And then section 18 is talking about the basic education. And sometimes the public debates and tells us that this education is not free. But those of us that have found ourselves in another space, you begin to see that the basic education is free. But we will not have time to go into some of those things. The next, please. Yeah, foreign policy. Foreign policy, if you are not involved, you send somebody to, our senior colleague is here, Dr. Peter Sai. You send him to National Assembly, send another person to State Assembly, and that person cannot put up a debate to protect you. This foreign policy something is very important. I came across somebody and what they told the person to do, if not for the support we have and the networking we have, you'll be wondering, is it people that sat down and got out some of these policies? You'll be wondering. So definitely we need to be involved in some of those issues. Section 20 is very, very clear. The issue of environment. Most people are from MDAs that has to do with environment. And most of the times, your powers, you drive your powers constitutionally from this. Then section 21. You know, when we're fully at the front of union, you talk, you quote section 21, your freedom to talk, radio, press, all those things is there. You know, so at times you'll be embarrassed. You will even know what next. But when you start saying some of those things, those people will know that, yes, you know what you are doing. And then no, section 22 has to do with press. Next, because of our time. I will just like us, though it's too tiny, the section 40 is clear. You have your right to belong to any association. You have your right to come together and meet and give yourself the type of name you want, except secret court. Nobody stops you, whether a political party, whether an association, just like NiBSA, you fall under section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution. Nobody stops you from becoming any association you want. Next, please. Yeah, you see, opportunities like this, when given to us, yes, our schedules are tight, but we have to put up a means to come. So we appreciate the opportunity given to us. We are very happy. We didn't take it for granted. We saw the need to come, and I'm happy coming, seeing those that I've not seen for long. I've exchanged pleasantries with people based on this opportunity, and I'm very, very grateful. Next. Yeah, you see, one good thing with the way Nigerian government is, or the way we politic before we come into power. In some countries, for you to be a judge, the way we campaign for the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government, that is how it is in the judiciary arm of government. But here is just the executive arm of government and then the legislative arm of government. But out of these three arms of government, one of the best I've seen, not because I'm here, one of the best I've seen is the legislative arm of government. That is the hope of democracy. Everybody comes there, abuse you, says what he wants to say, and go back. But if you look at the executive arm of government, you don't just enter government house easily like that. But the legislative arm of government, you don't enter also easily like that, but you can enter National Assembly. That's why the fact they are arrested. But you enter there, compared to the way you enter, you come to the state level, the same thing. So everybody has access because you are representing people. At any day, any time, they can come. It's the hope of democracy. And if you look at the Nigerian constitution critically again, the way the sections have been arranged, there is a reason why everything about legislature comes first. In section 4, you will see the arrangement of legislature. Then when you come to section 5, you will see the executive. When you now come to section 6, you will see the judiciary. Then section 7 has to do with local government. Everything about legislature is this systemic pattern of doing things requires brainstorming. Whereas at the executive arm of government is more of the executes. It's something you just implement. You can take resolution of the legislators and then implement it. But in the legislative arm of government, you are talking about pandemic. Sometimes you can even fight when talking of debating. These are some of the misconceptions which people see about us. Just discussion, just debate. Somebody feels you are talking about pandemic, why all this thing? When he's trying to talk about flood in his community, these people are hungry and you are here to stop it, you can fight. So that is how the place is. Next. Yeah, you see, we in the legislature, yeah, let's continue. Yeah. We have a lot of powers, so many powers, but we are also limited. But the summary of one thing I will give is that what is our role as people that are elected? Three primary roles we run: representation, lawmaking, and oversight. The rest are addition. Once you want to represent your people, there is outbreak, you will now come to the floor of the house and talk about cholera outbreak. You make laws. What you appropriated to the executive arm of government, you now check, you do oversight from time to time and see if really they are within that aspect. Now that I've mentioned these three major rules, we as legislators, how can we combat pandemics? From these three roles I've mentioned, I will now use Plateau State House of Assembly with what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic to just explain how we work. And same thing in the national, same thing will be applicable to the South African sub-region. If there is an outbreak, what is expected for us to do and what we did with the example I've said? We sponsored a bill to do with the drug management agencies. Why? Because there are lots of consumables as at that time. They will tell you out of stock, and the rest. So the best thing for us to do as at then to help in combating pandemic was that we now sponsored a bill on the drug management agency. What the bill is trying to achieve is that there will be strategic purchasing of health commodities in the state, and it's cheaper for us. You know the source of the commodity you are dealing with, and I can't go, all of us know drugs, health commodities, and other things. But once you are told that common hand gloves is out of stock, you feel somehow. So we did that to guide in the combating of pandemic. One of the things we did as legislators again is that data management was completely poor in Plateau State, health data management. We now had to work on health management information system bill. That's everything you do, right from OPD, right from field as an environmentalist, everything you do, let there be data that will guide you. Manage the data, it gives you policy decision. One of the things we did again was that we worked on the traditional medicine and traditional complementary and alternative medicine bill. Why? Because as at that time, so many things were happening, different apps. This one will tell you, take this one will say this one will say that. So we did a work on that bill so that if you could recall, as at that time, Plateau State was taking the lead on that research. We got that power through that bill that we sponsored, because we want to make sure that all those traditional medicine people come under one roof so that we can be able to regulate them. One of the things we did again was on the social investment program. It got to a level that this company will donate, you can't account for it. This will give support, you can't account for it. We did that so that there will be proper coordination, and that was how we were fighting the pandemic as a day. Another thing again we did was that we discovered that communities were involved. Most of these communities that were involved were not registered. So we have to put up a bill, we sponsored a bill on community social development registration. We did all those things. Another aspect we saw was that even during the pandemic, there were strikes. And the only option we had as at then was faith-based organizations. So we have to sponsor a bill on how we can support faith-based organizations, at least with a particular amount. Let there be a law. One of the things we did again was, you see, those things we were doing, in as much as it was the executive arm of government that takes the lead, but they need a law to guide them in all what they were doing. So these were some of the laws that we worked on. I just mentioned few, but I listed next. Yeah, just as I said, you see, even during that time, we do go out. In fighting that pandemic, we make sure that Plateau State has 24 constituencies, state constituencies. One thing we initiated as House Committee on Health was that there are few preliminary things that the State House of Assembly member needs to know in combating pandemic. Because you are a leader, when you go and you talk to your people, they will listen to you. So we did a mini training. We made sure that we equip ourselves with some simple things. We had a booklet, a very simple booklet on community engagement. When you are a leader, you have those simple things that has to do with as at then, hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, and few things. If that person is able to say it to his people, they look at him as a leader and they will follow. So we did those work, we did a lot of things, we did community engagement, religious leaders, youths, and the rest. And that was the aspect. The speaker, as at then, took the lead. We were having a lot of problems on the field, and we used to go out ourselves. And that's one, we went out to make sure that we play our own role. So now you look at it that, okay, as a legislator, somebody can put up a petition when it has to do with pandemic. It's not only financial issues that you petition to the State House of Assembly. There are lots and lots and lots of things. So when things come like that, Constitutionally, we have our powers to handle it. Apart from the first three that I mentioned, these are other things that a legislator can do to fight or combat pandemic. Next. Yeah, we don't just work like that. If we say our roles towards fighting pandemic, we don't just work like that. There are technocrats in the State House of Assembly. There are aides that we work with. There are people that also guide us. So all of us come as a team and do that work. Why am I saying this? Look, this thing is very sensitive. We are transcendent. So don't just look at it as if you have an idea. Don't insist only getting the legislator alone. There are technocrats in the institution. Also equip them. Share your experience. Make them know, because if that person leaves, I don't want to give specific examples based on the mixture of. There are times that you'll be holding just one person, maybe in the National Assembly or State Assembly, to do something. If that person leaves, the technocrats don't have in-depth of what you wanted. But when that person leaves, and there are technocrats that you equip them to, you share your ideas. If another person comes, they can run fast with the kind of vision that you have. So that composition helps very well. Don't look at only the elected as somebody that can achieve. So from this composition, but there is something again that people do say it, as I started. The misconception, everything there is that as if the legislator can do everything. No, we have our limits. Definitely we have our limits. And sometimes people look at it as if, a legislator, you want to fight pandemic, give us money now, let's go and do this. No, it's not about money. You see, and one thing, as I said, this thing you see, the powers are much, but still there are limits. Within that premises, if you see how we do our work, within that premises, once the mess is there, you can say anything you want to say, you are immune. But outside that premises, no mess, you don't have power again to start talking anyhow. So we don't look at us somehow that you see us remove our shirts and fight. As far as it's within that premises of work, we can box ourselves. It's allowed. Yes, not only in Africa, all over the world. If you look at our house group, we have ethics too. Just like all the professions that are here, we have ethics that guide us. Our senior colleague is here, as practice, everybody. So we fight, and there is a reason. It's all about interest, and you need to protect your interest. So some legislators have to protect the interest when it comes to biosafety generally. And one thing that we are also suggesting is that you must make friends with these legislators and then share these ideas with them so that they will be guided. When it comes to budgeting, one of the best tools in fighting pandemic is the biosafety financing. How many states in Nigeria have a budget line to do with biosafety? Is it under the Ministry of Environment or Health or any related or Science and Tech? How many? So these are some of the things that we need to start selling out. Because if you don't have that budget line, you will speak English, put all ideas, you can't run the research. You cannot do anything. And one thing again we've learned and we've seen is that budget line in Nigerian context does not mean release of funds. You must still lobby. There are lots of things that you need to do. So one of the things we do, despite the fact you see us do that, show that our power, we still need to lobby. And if we do our lobby, there are lots of networking. It's very possible somebody that you neglect by the roadside has power to make that accountant general release that fund for you. So what is our relationship? So these are some of the misconceptions. Don't look at it as if it's just that legislator that can do everything. It's very possible that that person in past was the one that pasted the poster of the governor. And he can dial the governor's line. The governor will pick. Why you, the legislator, you have some kind of skills that you've not sorted out, you will call the governor, he will not pick. But because that ward chairman called him at that time, the governor will pick. And then he will just tell the governor that, boss, if you hear the way you've been calling the governor, you will not even know it's the governor is even talking to you. He will say, look, there is this money that they say if you don't release, cholera will kill my people. And go and release that money. I've told you that poster is still there. If you don't do it, I will not tell these boys to paste it. I've told you, he will not. I'm telling you, the governor will release it. Yeah. So the thing is very simple and it's very difficult. You will see how complex the thing is, and sometimes you see it very simple. So it's an area that you must have relationship with different types of people. You don't just throw anybody by the side. Everybody is important to you at a particular time. That is how we do the work. Next. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you. Yeah. We had our share during the pandemic. Let's tell ourselves the truth. That thing exposed Nigeria. No capacity to do anything. It exposed us. Ours was more of as if, I don't want to go the faith way, but it was more of as if we've developed immunity whereby there was like resemblance. When the antigen comes in, some of these antibodies will recognize it well. And that was what helped us. But no dilapidated infrastructure at the primary, secondary, and tertiary level, inadequate human resource for health. Is it the commodities to be used? Is it the data for you to manage? Nothing on ground. To be sincere and candid, those of us that understand the systems, I had to move back to the executive arm of government. I spent nearly 6 months in the government house. So that, because we need to drive it. We drive, as at that time, it got to a level that they were politicizing the thing, not only at state level, even at the federal level. It was expected that NCDC should take lead, but we hear that it's the secretary to the government of the federation that is taking lead. So all these things happen because of some interest, but we were exposed. So times like this, deliberations like this helps us to put up memos, and it is our prayers that most of the things that we are doing like this will help the nation. The memo that will be put in place, the timeline to implement it is very, very important. Sometimes people neglect it, but all this sensitive information, drop it at the appropriate places. It will help. Even if people will not do it now, you've played your own part. But that pandemic exposed us. And we pray that definitely, as we used to say, more are coming, whether we like it or not. How prepared are we? That one is a story for another. Yeah. What did we do? We produced it, and we insisted that what we did was that we said all members must contribute to the production. We did a simple calculation, community health workers, this, we got it. During engagement, community engagement, we did it to fight the pandemic. We did advocacy, pushing for 15% total budget of the state to go for health and related discipline. We pushed for that to fight pandemic. Most of these things were done. As I said, budget, very, very important. Very, very important. Once you don't have a budget line, you are wasting yourself, you're wasting your time. It's not like NGOs that you can sit down, do one or two things, and pull out. Government, there is what we call unallocated funds. These unallocated funds, for you to get it, is very, very hectic. I don't like, if I go for oversight and maybe they are saying, please go and talk to the governor to give, I don't even like going that way. It's just the salvage pathway, the de novo pathway. Which one is, is better? So better you get your budget line is very important. And I've said it, I won't emphasize on that. And you must use civil society organization. You must work with media. If you don't have civil society organizations to promote what we are doing, they have the power to talk sometimes. And we worked with them when we are fighting the pandemic. They have their roles to play. And most of the times, if I move out, you will see media men will follow you because they are looking for stories. And if you don't have the capacity to say what you are expected to say at that time, and we as legislators, there is a legislative network unit, the 36 states and then the National Assembly. We played very good roles here to make sure that we fought the pandemic. So these were some of the things that we did, but the executive took the lead. Now, there is something that I've seen. Professionals don't go for politics. You don't talk about economics, socialization. You hold your technicality, legal aspects. We are weak. How much do you even know our environment? From what I've been saying, I did a personal analysis on my own direct affiliated profession on the plateau. I discovered that most of my colleagues don't even have the GSM contact of their representative. If I ask now that can you dial at state level, can you dial the GSM of your representative? Probably it will ring. Let's just do it. Yes, they may not pick it, but let's just, time will not permit us. But within 24 hours, how many of us will that state representative send you a text back that I'm busy, we can talk later or this? You don't involve, you are not involved. It's not when he's elected that you will now get across to him. So we must be involved in this politics. When it comes to the issue of economy, let's be involved. When it comes to that socialization aspect, let's be involved. We cannot hold to our work. I recall something I did with somebody in Yobe State. He's now the Speaker of the State House of Assembly. We wanted to achieve something. And I told the people that, look, since they are giving birth, let's just go for the naming ceremony. And we'll present our case before him immediately after the naming ceremony. My colleagues were saying, let's go and meet in the office. I said, look, we must reach this target given to us. It has to do with maternal newborn child health in Yobe State. And we went there. I told him what I wanted. He said, between the platform. I said, yes. He said, is that what you want? I said, yes. I said, just move the motion. Give me the resolution. Me, I know where to take it to. And in the next thing, we were in the gallery, they did it. We developed it and gave it to them the way we wanted it. So be involved. That is how to fight this thing. And not only for everything, just be involved. We have gone so far away from politicking. We have gone so far away even from knowing our environment. You don't even know when sanitation in the nearby community will be done. You are not the one to come out directly and do it, but you can buy small coke, give them small the youths, they will do it. Why? Because these are the roles we play and keep the environment clean. It's not when there is pandemic, you come out and say, I'm an environmentalist, I'm a veterinarian, I want to tell you people this, I'm a medical doctor. They will not listen to you. They will not. The world is changing, things are becoming somehow. But when you do it with them, you socialize with them, when they call for a program, wedding, send forth, they see you once in a while, but that is how you can run this organization. That is when you will talk, people will listen to you. And these are some of the things that we've learned, and that is how we are fighting the pandemic too. Yeah, I will not disturb myself too much with the personal analysis, but it's a work that I did, and that is the summary I've given. And these are the main factors that I've explained. You see, there are lots of challenges. And I always go by the pure principle. One thing that we need in this nation, even though we have that human capacity to work, there are so many people that have left this country and they are performing well outside this country. And somehow we are working with them, and as at that time they left. But the pure, once there is no peace, how will you fight pandemic? How will you combat it? Once there is no peace, there will be no development. Once there is no peace, nothing we can do. We are promoting peace anywhere we find ourselves. We are promoting peace to make this association grow well. We are promoting peace to make Nigeria develop. For the you of my pure, if we are not united, forget it. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whether you're from northern Nigeria, whether you're from southern Nigeria, if we are not united, that is what is killing us. There are sectors you go to, you see everybody capping his niche. I behave like that sometimes back, but I thank God, seeing myself somewhere again, I discovered it was not like that. You have to. No man is an island. We are talking about one health. You cannot do it alone. We must be united. The strength in our unity will help us succeed at every level. Somebody's talent cannot bring treasures. Somebody's treasures cannot bring time. That unity you see is what will make us grow. If NiBSA is not united, if legislators are not united, if executive arm of government are not united, if the judiciary is not united to do its work, we are wasting our time. We had to put a mobile court during pandemic so that we meet up. If the judiciary is not there to work, nothing you will do. If they are not united to work, nothing you will do. The hour of the pure, we are promoting righteous politics. We have discovered the type of legislators that we have, or even the type of executive that we have. Corruption has eaten everywhere. The little money to even run biosecurity issues, corruption has taken over it. We must get righteous leaders. A righteous Muslim, a righteous Christian. These are people that will do the right thing for us. There are people that are confessions. I am telling you that little given to fight pandemic, he will divert it. If the person is not righteous, forget everything. I'm the one saying it. I found myself in a space that you battle. You wonder what really is happening. The challenge is too heavy as this stone. Pushing it. But I believe that when there is peace, I also believe that when we are united, I also believe that when there are righteous leaders that knows their environment for the E of the pure, most of the things will move well. And that is when we know that yes, there is a problem, and definitely there will be a solution. Once that peace is not there, I keep emphasizing. And once that unity is not there, once those righteous leaders are not there, even if there is peace and you don't know your environment well, you can't perform. There are people that don't know Nigeria well and they are in leadership. Your environment is Nigeria. There are people that don't know their state well, but they are in leadership. Your state is your environment. The E could be ethics. What is your attitude to work? How have you moved? A legislator that knows he has an assignment and the attitude to work is poor, how can he fight pandemic? But you were the ones that elected him based on sentiment. So the thing is disturbing some of us, and that is why you see us talk when opportunities are given to us like this. And I believe with the period we found ourselves and the way we are going to move, people will be involved to get legislators that knows their environment very well, to get legislators that knows what they are going to do, so that when issues come like this, we will all be united to fight it. What did we do, as I said? We got primary health care because we must encourage them. Mobility during pandemic, we need life, we needed life, everything. Good water. There are communities in my place that if you drink gold, you are wasting your time. So you have to go by well. Sometimes all these things, we must give them the table water. We did all those things. Why? Because you are talking about hand hygiene. Yeah, and he will tell you, I mean, go and sit down there. Did you give us what you are talking about hand hygiene? He will take you to the screen and show you and say, okay, so you need to get bubble. You need to do one or two things. We motivated the youth. In as much as we are fighting the pandemic, there are things you need to do. You get a youth and give him a chaba to have something doing. We did all those things. These are some of the things. This is one of the clinics. This is a school. If you don't put school, how will they teach the person the primary education? Is it basic primary health science at that level? And the Committee on Education, I told them, look, this curriculum has to change. If you see the curriculum at primary school level is something that since 1970 something, I recall some of the things when I was seeing the topic. I told them, look, we need to change this thing. We need to move a bit off the way we see it too rigid. You go with what we know is happening. So these are some of the ways that the legislators can fight and combat. All these ones are things that we did to, we made sure that when we are promoting this hand hygiene, we bring so many boreholes. And when we got it, there is one NGO, Water Aid, I know them, they supported me, I gave little and they brought their own. So that was how we did the work as legislators, promoted girl child education. You'll be embarrassed, a baby at 13 years in primary school, first menses, no water to even clean up, you know. So these are some of the things that we do face on a daily basis. Moving forward, what should we do? Moving forward, what should we do? Please and please just have it in mind that if you don't get good leaders that will put the system well, Nigeria will remain the way it is. Let's pray, fast. Nothing. Good leaders will change the system. In conclusion, this boy is determined that he can circumcise himself. We as legislators, we are determined that we can play our role to combat pandemic. The man is focused with the baby, very focused. If NiBSA is focused, we will achieve what we want to achieve. Practice skills. The lady will hit her target using her legs to send the arrow, while some people are using hands. That commitment, that practice, that skill found in good leaders that are legislators will achieve that target. Thinking, the philosophy of science, thank God for this audience. I won't disturb myself. Thinking, ideas drives a nation. We need a lot of ideas. We need a lot of ideas. The government is so strong. Once it's hit to the positive things will happen. Once it's hit for the negative things will happen. Thank you. God bless you.
Very good. A round of applause again, please. That's a wonderful one. Well grounded, well rooted. Yeah, we appreciate that very much. Now it's time for question and answers. Question and answers. Okay.
Let's get out of the mic.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, our speaker. You've done so well. But I have a question. You told us how we can get involved in things that concern legislating. I also know that I'm not going to call any state name, but there are some legislators that are not allowed to think for themselves or concerning anything that concerns their constituency. You only think what the governor wants you to think. So in such a situation, how do you get involved with such a legislator?
Thank you, comrade. You know, we started together, but now we left any okay, but maybe very soon I will join you. You know, Honorable Dabuku was the one that was our role model. So we'll keep moving, but even though you are moving faster than me. Thank you for this presentation. I just want you to suggest to us, in as much as pandemic is something that you cannot predict, or you cannot say it will never come again. What do you think, what will you advise NiBSA as a body, you know, to begin to put together, in case the pandemic comes tomorrow? How will NiBSA be properly integrated into the activity of fighting pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I must say I'm very much impressed, but I have this mark. And I know I don't know your environment, but I'm telling you, I can speculate that you'll be one of those politicians that will have problems with his colleagues. Well, when you think right, you are off their target.
You are right.
So they will fight you.
You are right.
I'll give two scenarios. The only way we scientists can get involved is to do a groundbreaking research that will impact the society. But once you take a step to do it, it will be obvious. I'll give you an example. Sometime during the time of Abacha, I got involved with my supervisor in a particular research. That was when they put the issue of vaccine under women, something they call it. They were in control of that thing. And our observation was that, or my observation was that, by the time they give vaccine to children, it has already become water. And you say that it's vaccine failure. But before you give it, it's already water. So I really wanted to monitor from the time they purchased it and it lands to Nigeria. From that point, I want to get the vaccine, test the potency, up to the local government level, and they now inject it, or vaccination center, and they now inject it. I was almost killed. I went underground for 3 years because we were told that NADECO was the one sponsoring us. So myself and supervisor could not go. And at that time, when you do a research, go to this kind of forum, make it known, and there's newspaper, what is it, newspaper, something on radio. Then research will be out. So they started looking for us. Myself and the popular Professor Milabu, we were doing that thing, and we went on the ground because the instruction was to go and kill them, and NADECO is sponsoring them. Yeah, I don't know Nadedo. I don't even know who remember. Just ordinary thinking that, okay, I could do this, I could do this. Then there's another research on measles, which I did. And I now felt that research needs to leave the laboratory. So I wrote, after the thing, I wrote it in layman's language and sent it to the Lagos State Ministry of Health. They got it, they saw the result. So when they want to do their little thing, where the money is, they did not call me the one that they gave it to somebody else, and they were now looking for me. That man is being sponsored. I don't know who is sponsoring me. So please, sir, I want to ask you the password. The password to the center of politics where they can reason. People like you who are in that place, they will cook up one story or the other, so that when you are talking, you will look like a bad person to me, whereas you are the good person to me. So please, it's very, very crucial. Nigeria has gotten to that level, and it's increasing and worsening every day. Thank you.
Sorry, I understand your pains. I joined politics because of what you are expressing. I was in a comfortable zone. I'm not beating my chest. I was in a very comfortable zone, very, very comfortable zone. I rose to National Officer Grade C with UN, but I dropped it for a reason. I saw the way some of the things are going. I felt I was one that used to give money sometimes. Go do this, go do this. All these things you said is like that. Sir, I was telling Dr. Leo that politics, we call it 24 hours. The secret is within that 24 hours. Every second, there is something you do. Every minute, there is something you do. Every hour, there is something you do. Within that time and space, if you miss it, you miss that cycle, you wait for another 24 hours. What is the 24 hours of Nigeria is 4 years. Time will not permit me to begin to talk about it. But there are 5 blocks that will give you the password. Media is one of the strongest weapons there. Finance is there. Your human resource, which people call structure, is there. Knowing the bureaucrats, the diplomatic aspect is there. So please, politics, I was called somewhere, they coined the topic to meet up with what you said. But as you are seeing me so, sir, let me tell you, if you stop me at Kerry, you won't see me with these clothes again. That's one of the secrets. You will see me dressed like this again. I will move from here now. I'm going back to Jos to do something. And I will change my dress probably twice. If you describe me like this, I will pass you, you will know I'm the one. Wow. The car I have now, I may leave it in Akwanga and pick another car. My boys will bring the car, they will move from Lantan, come to Lafia and stop at Akwanga. We will pick that one, give them the one that they are having, they will go to Lantan with it. It's a game that you must be smart. Our lives is on, we've given our lives for something. My wife has designed herself in a manner that anything you just tell her, she knows how to reach you. She won't call me directly. She won't call my driver. She won't call my aide. There is a way we communicate. There are things we do that will not permit me. Sometimes your picture and a lady's picture, if they will send it graphic work, they will send it to your wife. We've seen all those things just to make you, nobody wants, if that, a simple example I give, if that I wanted money during the pandemic, I wouldn't have achieved what, don't look at money. Work, money will come. So when you look at it as if you had a breakthrough and you need money, no. Once you want to see money, I'm telling you, government, look, forget this thing. They will give you the money. There is a chip. The person giving you the money has snapped you. The environment they are giving you the money, as you are going out, media men have picked it. The technology is so high. You can't use money by constraints on me. No, you can't. Probably you use clergy, traditional leaders, and then you can call me to order. But when you want to use money, you will miss it. So everybody has his weak point and other things, but your security is very, very important. There are places you talk, there are places you don't talk. There is no weak. There are probably I will grant press, and then from some of my statements, it may hurt government. It may hurt government. And sometimes they may need me to also do something. So it's particular time and the interest. So the time that they may need me for something, they may forgive me the bad one out, according to them, and then use me for the particular one that they wanted. So it's something that you must be committed, you must be courageous, you must have the capacity to do it. If you don't have the capacity, they will mess you up. They will mess you up. So may God help us. Yeah. And then my brother, me and Abdul, we are beyond friends. That's also the truth. We are more of like brothers. And we've reached a level that if my wife sees his call, she'll say, your brother is calling you. You know, if I'm busy, she'll say, your brother called you, it's more than 1 hour, you've not replied to. So thank you so much, Abdul. The world has reached a level that you must go by it. You can't just sit down and then the thing will happen, they will recognize you. You package it. The public person said it. You get what we call maybe, like me now, if something wants to happen about family planning, they have named me that I'm an ambassador. You know, so you must have an ambassador for NiBSA, ambassador for biosafety, ambassador for this. There is a way to package some of those things. Vanguard for this, Vanguard for that. You get prominent people. Yes, you can do it in a manner that maybe you look at National Assembly, it's not a name you will work with. Anybody that is the chairman, House Committee on Environment, as far as he's occupying that office, is so person for NiBSA. Is so person for biosafety. And then the technocrats that are there, that thing remains like that. Not that you did it once and you left. You keep oiling it. These people will come and go. When another elected people come, you just oil what you've done and kept there. You give different names so that when the thing starts, you've already put your structure. That's when you'll be known. Not that when it happens, then you come. We are bios. No. No. Nobody will listen to this. You have to plan it, you have to arrange it, you have to organize a tea break meeting, luncheon meeting, what, and the rest. If you go and write one long thing, you're waiting, just fact sheet, small fact sheet, you know, and that's how to be known. And that's the little I can. There are different methods, but this is just you want to be involved. That is what the governor says. I give an example. You see, politicians are very simple people. Politicians are very complex people. I have people that can call me to order. Sometimes the governor will beg. I won't listen to him. Where were you when he was being sponsored by somebody and he has won the election, the person pocketed him, and you are saying it's the people that are controlling him. You were not involved from the beginning, and he has won. You are saying the governor pocketed him. Probably the governor gave him money for campaign before he won the election. That's how these things are done. Probably they gave him, they sponsored him. So you must be involved from beginning. If I ask, who is your ward chairman? Which federal ward do you belong to? Most of us don't know those things. So it's from that level you will be involved. You can call your House of Assembly member to order, call the reps to order, call the senator to order. So let's be involved. That's all the summary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. In summary, get involved. Please, let's get involved because Nigeria is turning into something else. Okay, we are through with that. We want to move over to the presentation since we have bought some time because the lunch will be at 3 o'clock, I suppose. So let's continue with the session. So I want us to go over to isolation and identification of bacillus species from canned tomatoes sold at main market of Cape in Nasarawa State. Okay.
Good afternoon, my dear colleagues. We are all aware that we are behind time already, so we'll try to make the best of what we have now. We are going to start our scientific section, and unlike the elaborate time that the politician had, we don't have that privilege. We are going to take it sequentially as it's arranged on our brochure. If you notice, you will know that everyone has his time. You're actually supposed to speak for 10 minutes. And at that 10 minutes, you will be warned. And thereafter, we expect that you round off and then you conclude. We have appointed 3 of our senior colleagues to be impartial judges because we intend to give the best presenters prize to whoever emerges. We would not like to disclose the assessors to you at this point so that we don't influence them directly or indirectly, but make the best of your time. If you have any challenges, come a little with some time before your presentation. Don't come at about the time you are supposed to present and then complain that you have a challenge. There are slight changes that we have to make because some other people had challenges. Please, let's keep to this. We hope you take about 4 presentations before we quickly go for our lunch break. Because we just finished our tea break and I'm sure many of us are full. So we'll take about 4 and then we rush out. We are going to keep to time. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Okay. We're starting with 143 to be presented by Usman Habiba. See you around. Okay, clap for her, she's coming. She's going to talk of biosafety risk assessment of some hospitals in Kano metropolis.
Good afternoon to you once again all. Habiba Osman, standing before you to present my research titled Assessment of some hospitals in Kano, biosafety risk assessment of some hospitals. Maybe the term is not, it has been cut off. Biosafety risk assessment of some hospitals in Kano metropolis. Excuse me. Okay.
Next.
Introduction. Biosafety in healthcare facilities is the containment principle, technologies, and practices implemented to prevent unintentional exposure to pathogens and toxins or their accidental release to the environment. Several hospital-associated infections have occurred in different parts of the world involving both known and previously unknown agents. The use of protective clothing and safety gadgets alone might not guarantee the healthcare personnel. Therefore, there should always be a combination of policies and systems. Next slide. Statement of the research problems. Risk assessments are required for all health facilities that handle valuable biological materials such as toxins, vaccines, pathogens, and other biological agents. However, in our settings in Nigeria, there is no administrative commitment to set up virus management committee in healthcare institutions. For this reason, there is virtually no biosafety risk assessment in place. This study is meant to demonstrate the need for such activity. Justification. There are high cases of hospital-acquired infections suspected to be linked to poor biosafety measures. At present, very few exist on virus assessment of hospitals in the country. The aim of the research was to determine the biosafety risk assessment of some hospitals in Kano metropolis. The objectives are as follows. One, to assess the level of biosafety measure in place for some selected hospitals in Kano metropolis. Two, to determine the biological agents in the environment, equipment, and instruments in some selected units of the study area. And the last one was to determine the susceptibility pattern of the bacterial isolate among the commonly disinfectants used in the selected hospital. Materials and method. Samples were collected from the environment, surgical instrument, disinfectants, surfaces, and also data was collected using a questionnaire, which was analyzed using a software, BioRAM software, which is specifically used for biosafety assessment. And these are the results obtained for the 3 hospitals. The research was conducted among 3 various hospitals and 3 different units in each of the hospitals, which include pediatric units, surgical ward, and A&E of each of the 3 different hospitals. And according, the outcome of the analysis was the biosafety index for both hospitals was indicated here, and the relative biosafety index, also the cumulative biosafety index, and the cumulative relative biosafety index. All in all, from what we can see here, American Teaching Hospital is having the highest cumulative relative biosafety index of 46.25%, and Murtala Muhammad Special Hospital having 22.75%. Then Abdullahi Wasai Teaching Hospital having 25.75%. This is a graphical presentation of the percentage obtained, the grades obtained from the hospitals from the questionnaire, where from what we can see, the blue color indicating AKTH and Murtala Muhammad and Abdullahi Wasai, the percentages are indicated there, where we can see that AKTH is still indicated having a little bit fairer or adequate biosafety level, though the percentage is not up to 50%. These are the bacteriological quality assessment. From the objectives, the work is divided like into 2 aspects, where the first objective is the biosafety risk assessment, and the second aspect of it is the bacteriological quality assessment, where the air, surfaces, surgical instrument, and disinfectants were assessed and some microorganisms were isolated. These are the microorganisms that were isolated based on the hospitals and their percentage. A graphical presentation of the microorganisms. Thanks. Next slide.
Yeah.
Is no one.
What time is it? Those
Okay.
were the slides.
All right. Conclusion, in AKTH, the relative biosafety index level was fair compared to the level at Murtala Mohammed Special Hospital and Abdullahi Wase Teaching Hospital. The bacteriological air quality, surface quality, and equipment quality was found to be poor due to the number of pathogenic bacteria isolated. Highest bacterial contamination was observed in Abdullahi Wase Teaching Hospital and Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital. The predominant bacteria isolated in this study was Staphylococcus aureus, Klebsiella pneumoniae, and Escherichia coli. It was also demonstrated by this study that all bacterial isolates were susceptible to the disinfectant tested, and the higher the concentration of the disinfectant, the higher the activity. In general, gram-positive isolates were found to be more susceptible to the disinfectant than gram-negative isolates. Recommendation: biosafety committee should be constituted in all the hospitals so as to monitor biosafety compliance, training and workshops on biosafety practices. Biosafety facilities such as BSP, incinerators, waste disposal and collection system, PPEs should be adequately provided and regularly assessed for performance and improvements. It's recommended that the disinfectant should be routinely used for disinfecting surgical instruments and work surfaces. Thank you for this.
Thank you for that. We want to take the questions collectively after the presentation. So if you have questions, please just put it down while we go over to the next presentation. So the next one is will be handled by NiBSA John C. Is he here? All right. Please clap for him, please. Thank you very much.
This is from the initiating on structures. Yeah, it's from there. From your, okay, it's from your, this one. This one, this one. Give some more. This one, yeah, this from there, yeah. Okay. No, so as you are moving down.
Waiting for the slide to come up. He's going to talk on isolation and identification of bacillus species from canned tomatoes sold at main market of Cape, Nasarawa State of Nigeria. Okay, after him, the next person should start getting ready. Ben Chioma. A cross-sectional study of biological waste disposal of some private hospital laboratories in Kaduna, number NIC 2148. Okay, swabbing for 271. Abdullahi Mohammed. I have questions, I'll bring it up, please. For those that have questions for the former presenter, you can bring up your question. Can I go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, good afternoon, the president and other organizing committee members and everybody that is here. I'm here to present a research work entitled Isolation and Identification of Bacillus species from canned tomatoes sold at main markets of Cape Nassau State, Nigeria. Dr. George of Federal University, Slovakia. All right, don't worry. Tomato is an annual plant widely cultivated in many parts of the world. The tomato fruit has a smooth skin, green when immature and bright red or yellow when ripe. The fruit varies greatly in size, shape, and it has a lot of nutrients such as carbohydrates, fat, organic acid, water, vitamins, and minerals. The nutrients support the growth of microorganisms. Canned tomatoes are packed in sealed containers and are commercially sterile. Canning is intended to destroy harmful microbes in food. However, with improper handling, cans can become breeding grounds for microbes. Bacillus species are gram-positive endospore forming chemoheterotrophic rod-shaped bacteria, which are usually multi-aerobic and are facultative anaerobes and can be also catalyst positive. And they cause food poisoning and food deterioration. The statement of the research problem. Although canning is intended to destroy harmful microbes in tomatoes, however, justification of the study, contamination of canned tomatoes can cause food illness and therefore need careful observation of the products in order to avoid health complications to consumers. Generally, tomato fruit being supplemented with about 80% water, low in pH, highly rich nutrient elements and sugar serve as stable medium for microbial growth. Research has established that post-harvest loss of fruits due to microbial infection in Nigeria ranges from 50 and 90%. It is therefore necessary to know microbes associated with tomato fruit spoilage in order to make them safe before reaching the final consumers. Aim of this study. The aim was to isolate and identify Bacillus species from canned tomatoes sold at Kefi market. Methodology. This
work was carried out in the microbiology laboratory of Nassau State University. A total of 100 samples of canned tomatoes, 20 from each. We decided not to name them for some ethical issues. We are purchased from Kefi Men Market and transported to the laboratory where the samples were analyzed microbiologically. First of all, we did the aerobic mesophilic count, coliform count, where we did presumptive, confirmatory, and completed tests, so that we can check the most probable number of the coliforms. Then for bacillus, after isolation, we carried out identification by carrying out gram staining and other biochemical tests such as catalase test, motility test, and fermentation test. So at the end of the day, we did our colony counts, and the result was as shown in the chart. So for brand 1, we were able to get 6.4 of the aerobic count, and the other one is total coliform count. Then from the 100 samples that we cultured, because out of the samples we collected, we cultured we cultured 20. We took 20 of the tomato paste and did culture for each of the brands. And for brand 1, we got 8 of the canned tomatoes were contaminated because we were able to isolate organisms. Brand 5 was the least that yielded bacterial growth. So totally, we were able to isolate from 100 tomato can containers, we got isolates from 24 of it. That is 24%. And we carried out sensitivity testing too, and we were able to get those that were highly susceptible and those that were least susceptible. So from the research carried out, we noticed that most of the isolates were Bacillus species, because that was what that's the main objective of research. We didn't pay much attention for the coliforms. So the microorganisms they use not only let me just go for because of time. Canned food have been reported to be contaminated mainly by spore-forming bacteria of the genera Bacillus clostridium and the sulfotumaculum. The 24% isolation rate observed in this study is high, considering the fact that the container is meant to prevent contamination of the tomatoes. Usually, when we do aerobic mesophilic counts or aerobic plate counts, it is just to check the handling of the raw materials, the processing and storage, and then before it is taken to the market for consumption. So for us to isolate this isolate means that the processing method was not properly done. Probably they were trying to preserve the organisms so that they don't heat it to spoil the flavor, or in fact there are a lot of things they did that made the isolates to be obtained. If not, it's supposed to be sterile. So recommendation: precautionary measures should be taken by industries manufacturing the canned tomatoes. Adequate microbiological knowledge and handling practices of this would help minimize waste due to deterioration. Then the use of antibiotics for poultry production should be discouraged, because from the isolates from the tin tomato, some were still highly resistant, which means there could be transmission of resistant bacterial genes from feed, it's a one health issue, sure. So at the end of the day, it will be good for proper sterilization to be carried out so that the tin tomatoes we are consuming will be safe for everybody. Thank you very much.
What happened again? Okay.
Thank you for that presentation. Like you said, for those that have questions, please put it down so that at the end of the fourth presentation, we can ask your question. So we're calling on Abdullahi MA to come over for his own presentation. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Muhammad Askiram Abdullahi, and I'm here to present on a cross-sectional study on biological waste disposal of some private hospital laboratories within Kaduna metropolis. By way of introduction, biological waste are waste generated from biological agents or that which contains any form of biological agent. There are standardized procedures in waste disposal, which begins with segregation, collection, storage, treatment, transport on the type of waste and the risk each waste type presents. This study was actually carried out in 20 private hospital laboratories within Kaduna. They were assessed on how they dispose their biological waste using a portion of the Strengthening Laboratory Biosafety Program checklist, which I'll give credit to Dr. Stella Udo, who trained us on the assessment, which we carried out last year across the country. Based on waste segregation, 60% of those laboratories do not segregate their waste, and 20% segregate but improperly, and then only 20%, that is 4 of the laboratories that segregate their waste with their waste properly. This is a picture of one of the waste in the laboratory. Although it looks blood, but within this, you can see hand gloves. There are syringes and needles with blood in them. And that's what you get to see in most of the laboratories that do not segregate their waste. And then the next has to do with decontamination of liquid waste, which is also a requirement for a very good waste disposal system. And 70% of those laboratories do not decontaminate their liquid waste before disposal, but only 30% decontaminate their liquid waste. And that is a very, very big issue, because some of them will just drain into the sanitary sewer without decontamination, which poses a very serious issue to the environment, a very big risk I will use the word. This is a picture from one of the laboratories on decontamination of liquid waste. This is the thing. The same thing is used for hand washing. It's also used for staining, and that's where they also dispose their liquid waste, which is a very big issue in terms of biosafety. Presence of autoclave. I know as scientists, researchers, whatever, autoclave is very, very important. And by the study, 60% have functional autoclave in the facilities. And then 20% have autoclaves that is faulty, and the remaining percentage have no autoclave at all. Look at this picture. It's in the laboratory, and it's the cover of the autoclave that is kept on the bench, and the autoclave is somewhere else. An autoclave that is faulty, and then they are using the cover for something else. These are very, very big issues that we need to be very, very careful and how to see how we can solve them. And the issue of incineration of waste. 40% of the facilities have incinerator. And then the remaining 20% use open field burning. And the remaining percentage contact waste disposal companies, which they are not sure of how they dispose their waste. This is an incinerator of one of the facilities which they claim to have an incinerator. But looking at the picture, it tells you that this has not been put to use for a very long time. And then this is one of the facilities that I visited myself to carry out the study. This, I had to take away the basis. They were actually trying to put it in the open field burning instead of incineration. And they also did not segregate their waste. And then this is a product of the end product of open field burning. All the waste do not get burnt accordingly, and with this, they will just discard it, and some of them don't even do land filling of the waste. So, in conclusion, it is manage their waste properly, or are not well informed about the risk posed by the biological waste generated from their laboratories. So in terms of recommendation, it is very important that NiBSA and other relevant bodies take it as a serious cause for concern to train and retrain personnel on the need for proper waste disposal. And I'm happy with what was presented at the pre-conference for some of us that were present. Anywhere you go, if you talk of biological waste, it's a very, very serious issue of concern. And I was happy the presenter from ProLab, the speaker, made mention of the collaboration going on for the West African biosafety management, that they also intend to look at the issue of biological waste disposal. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We're having the last one now. 161 by Peter J.D. Oh. Okay, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Yeah, so just as we proceed with the scientific presentations, before we get the next person to come on board, let me quickly use this forum to introduce an eminent personality that has been in our midst. And so we don't keep waiting. And the Inspector General of Police, Osman Akali Baba, POC Plus, NPM, NEAPS, FDC, CFI. I was waiting in case you will not clap, because you don't have FCPP in your own. So listen to a correct one. All right, that's Inspector General of Police, Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is ably represented by our own ACP, Dr. Noye Lawrence Wele. She is also the medical director of the Police Hospital, Abuja. She also serves as the Interpol Biosecurity Focal Person for the Nigerian Police Force. And what more? A member of NiBSA. Please join me as we welcome her for a good message from the Inspector General of Police.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry I'm late. That's because we had an emergency meeting today, but I made sure I had to be here. And the truth is, I'm really grateful that I was able to come here. Even the sessions I've listened, they've been very impactful. And I want to say a big congratulations to the organizers, the LOCs, and every single member of NiBSA for the knowledge we've acquired, knowing that we're not just acquiring, we're going to go and use them. My colleague sitting with me said, Madam, what can we do? What can we do? We've attended so many. I'm glad to see Madam here. We've attended so many, meetings on biosecurity, biosafety. It's not enough for us to just get, drained with this information if we do not impact our nation. And we all know as law enforcement agents, of course, we're glad to collaborate because we're glad to apprehend anybody that will be an offender after we've done, all these meetings to ensure that Nigeria is biosecure and biosafe. We don't want after we've done, the whole framework and then people still go behind and make a waste of all our efforts. So much depends on biosecurity, and sincerely, I'm glad to be here and happy deliberations. Good afternoon.
Joanna Peter led me stand on the existing protocol. I'm here to present a seminar presentation titled A Review on the Importance of Vector Control for the Control and Elimination of Vector-Borne Diseases. By way of introduction, what is vector-borne diseases? They are infections caused by pathogens that are transmitted by arthropods. What are the examples of some of these arthropods? We have mosquitoes, which is common in almost every home, every kitchen. We have Glossina species, phlebotomous species, live, ticks, and triatomic bugs, also called as assassin bugs. Examples of the VBDs, that is the vector-borne diseases, we have malaria, lymphatic pharyngitis, filariasis, yellow fever, onchocerciasis, trypanosomiasis, leishmaniasis, dengue fever, and Chagas disease. These diseases threaten over, 80% of the world's population, and disappropriately affect forest populations in the tropics and subtropics. This report is from WHO in 2017. Now, I try to project what a vector is. The typical one here is the Glossina, also called Cephefly.
You can see the trap and then the diagnostic stages using James's scale. The second vector here is common mosquito anopheles. You can see the diagnostic stages. That is the ring stages of falciparum. And then the asexual form, the female asexual form, typically look in the crescent shape, the banana form. We also have the kissing bug because it bites around the corner of the mouth. So it's called kissing bug. And it's not common in this part of the world. It's called the assassin bug. And that is the diagnostic stage. It's also called the C. cruzi, which is C. cruzi. It's C in shape. The last one here we have is the Simolium damnosum complex. The black flies is common on the plateau around the Asopor. And it follows a very fast-moving river. The end result is blindness, you know. And that is the diagnostic stage. The one in the middle is the word traps that is used. Before now, the traps that are used for Simolium damnosum complex, we call it complex because there are over 25 species of this fly. And that human baiting was what was recommended, but they found out that human came down with the diseases in the process of catching the fly. What is the aim? The aim is to review the history of vector control from 1800s. Tools and approaches were adopted and the impacts they have had on vectors, infection, and disease. And then the objective is to highlight what tools and approaches were adopted, to find out impacts they had had on vectors, infection, and diseases. Methodology used. Vector control aims to limit the transmission of pathogens, you know, by reducing or eliminating human contact and the vector. A wide range of vector control tools exist. It is broadly classified into chemical and non-chemical tools. Tools targeting immature vectors can act by killing the immature stages, and chemical or biological larvicides and predator species. What of the tools targeting the adult vectors? They function by killing the vector, e.g. the indoor residual spraying, commonly known as ISR, and space spraying, reducing vector contact. That's the success of blood feeding on from the insect with human and or animal reservoir hosts. E.g., we have topical repellents. I'm sure we are aware of that. What of house screening? We screen our doors, we screen our windows, and then the insecticide-treated bed nets, also called INTS. And then we have the insecticide-treated dog collars. Even dogs, they carry this vector and intermediate hosts, like ticks, like fleas. When you use the dog collars, it is sprayed with insecticide. It reduces it just about 6,000. There are also several novel vector control tools under development. Examples include the genetic manipulation of mosquitoes, bacterial infection of vectors, e.g. the Wolbachia, and insecticide-treated e-tubes. The result, in the late 1800s in East Africa, efforts put in by the colonial powers, through bush clearing, game destruction, trapping of safety, brought sanitary legislation were enforced by monetary fines, not like in our today's sanitation, especially from where I come from. It's once in a month and who cares? By 1951 to 1980, China National Visceral Leishmaniasis Control Program targeted phlebotomous species. What is the result? Indoor residual spraying of houses and animal shelters using the DDD. Elimination of topical deltrametrin treatment of dogs led to massive reduction in the case of incidents from 94 per 1,000 in 1950 to approximately 0.03 per 100,000 by 1980. By 1973 to 1991, Botswana State Control Program eliminated the Glossina morsitan centralis, consequently eliminated what? Cefe and HAT, human African trypanosomiasis, through aerial spraying of insecticides, deltamethrin treated targets to stop reinvasion of Cefe, according to Hangroff in 2003. By 1974 to 2002, West African Onchocerciasis Program, this confines us to a lesser extent, African Program for Onchocerciasis Control, APOC, for Stimolium species. Near elimination was achieved in Africa, according to Boatin in 2008. VPDs contribute significantly to the global burden of diseases, accounting for about 70% of the global estimated burden of all infectious diseases, according to others in 2020. The best known VPD, perhaps, is malaria, a major cause of morbidity and mortality, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, with approximately half the world's population predicted to be at risk of malaria. This report is according to WHO in 2016. Vector control is principal method available for controlling many VPDs, both historically and today. Some diseases such as dengue, a vaccine is licensed, but is not widely used due to safety concerns. And then from the year 2000 to present, insecticide treated bed nets and the IRS against malaria. IPNS responsible for 68% of about 663 million clinical cases averted from 2000 to 2015. This report is by Bass and his colleagues in 2015. Recommendations and conclusions. Political will and investment in capacity and capability must be maintained in order to keep VPDs and vector control as public health priorities. Strengthening inter and intra-sectoral action and collaboration. Engage and mobilize communities. These are the stakeholders. Sometimes we neglect them. Enhance vector surveillance and monitoring and evaluation of interventions. Vector control has been shown to be highly effective historically and also presently. Lack of funding and weak programmatic capacity undermine programs and mean that we are not well equipped to face the world, pressing new challenges to VBT control. These are some of the selected references, and thank you very much.
Please let me crave your indulgence. The past 4 speakers have taken an average of 8 minutes. We have 4 more people to present, but 1 is still disposed. So if we can take the next 30 minutes, take the next 3 people. We'll just go and close for the day. The alternative is we'll go and come back and take 3 more speakers. You will take questions after we finish and then we go. That's the suggestion. NIC 22162, NIC 22253, NIC 22290 will be the next presenters. In that order, yes. So, 8 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Starting on the existing protocol for this presentation, the technical session for this year's conference. Hajira Yusuf. Assessment of biosafety and biosecurity engagement among workers in some institutional research laboratories, private and public. We carry this assessment by using questionnaires to research institute to gather information. Yeah. Technical issues. Introduction, aim of the study, materials and method, result, discussion, conclusion, and reference. So what I want to discuss with all of you this afternoon. Biosafety is consciousness in laboratory is of utmost importance. We all know about that because most of us that work in the laboratory and also in medical lab knows the importance of biosafety. A typical laboratory safety measure includes safety training, use of PPE, and so. Then review of experimental safety design and laboratory safety. So my aim is to assess the biosafety and biosecurity engagement among workers in the selected institutional research laboratory in Abuja. That's where the research took place. So we use questionnaire, just as I said, to gather information. The biosafety and biosecurity survey were carried out from October 2021 to March 2022. We used 6 months by distributing questionnaire among 280 workers, such as laboratory technologists, research officers, veterinary clinicians, institutional laboratories, and graduate students, private and public in Abuja. Our sample size was shown and calculated and analyzed by this formula. The result. Wow. It might be so difficult for people to see from far. So we have a respondent demographic distribution by looking at the male workers, then their degrees of qualification, because when you're looking at biosafety, the level at which people understand is based on their qualification. So we try to look at that to get our information. The category of people we use, the general knowledge of laboratory safety. Some of them, what do they have the knowledge? Some of them don't even know what you are talking about when you say biosafety. Say biosafety of what? So the laboratory biosecurity agenda, laboratory security plan, the achieve laboratory biosafety, and then the attitude towards biosafety in the laboratory. We did the binary logistic regression analysis for the biosecurity assessment prediction on the workplace used in the questionnaire. We used two-way ANOVA to calculate what we have from the questionnaire after getting the information, the laboratory biosafety and biosecurity general knowledge. So who and who really has the knowledge, and then who uses it, and so on and so forth. Multivariate analysis was also used in analyzing our report to get the gender, the position, and
We as well describe and analyze our dependence and dependent variable for the two ways that we use for the maneuver. Yes, from table 1, we have 55.5% of the respondents than we made when we took out our questionnaire to gather information. From this study, reliability test on the category of item used, approach alpha from this 0.647 to 0.85 in table 2. All results can be rated as acceptable. The predators of the biosecurity and biosafety engagement influence on worker, private and public, is significant to laboratory biosecurity, showing as 12.122 difference of 1. An attitude towards laboratory biosafety was also shown there as 5.613 difference of 1. Having sufficient influencing individual on the workplace among 5 predictors as indicated in table 3. The impact of the sector and biosafety level on biosafety security general knowledge from table 4 was statistically significant with main effect for sector F4C. Considering the two independent variables, gender and position, impact on the dependent variable shown in table 5, a statistical significance between variables were shown. Table C shows us that the female reported slightly higher level in achieving laboratory biosafety, just as I said. I even went to some physically to discuss with the laboratory workers. In conclusion, this study has clearly shown that the laboratory biosafety plan attitude towards laboratory biosafety, where someone work, have a significant influence on their biosafety and biosecurity engagement. Also, it can be deduced from this study that general knowledge of workers in the laboratory about biosafety and biosecurity was ascertained, because we look at most of them in their laboratory, some of them don't even know what is biosafety and biosecurity. In addition, the study shows that gender and position have significant effect in all the biosafety and biosecurity assessment, with female researchers and laboratory technicians having more inclination on how their research facilities do with the assessment. I have some of the reference that I use in my research work. Thank you for listening. We have questions. The email, the phone numbers are there. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Round of applause for her. Yeah. We'll now, please, if you have questions on our own publication, please just send the question so that we'll handle everything together after all the presentation. So now we are going over to 253, Adome EI. Can you? All right, round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you can see in my presentation is on laboratory diagnostics and implication of public health perspectives of COVID-19 in a rural setting in Europe, hospital. I am presenter. As a way of introduction, you can see the various laboratory techniques that were used during the COVID-19 outbreak. There were about 6 methods, and the only one that was used was practically the gold standard was ROT qualitative PCR. We have different diagnostic methods, but for clarity, the serology was just made for early infection to detect IgM and IgG for post-infections. That method was only effective for epidemiological studies and for vaccine production. So you cannot use that to actually trace for that, because when you want to use serology, the person will have stayed about over a week before you can detect antibodies. The rapid antigen test was used in remote areas where it's difficult to reach. If you have been to all the remote areas in Nigeria, you get with me that there are some places that your bicycle will not even reach, except to go on foot. Sometimes you have to go on boat. If you don't know how to swim, you cannot get across. Then the cell culture was just primarily used as a research to detect the pathogenesis of the organism and to do further research on it. So that one was not feasible too. Then you now go to the real-time polymerase. One was the 4A, which is the 4B, which is QRT-PCR. This was where you can detect the copies of the test, which means the lower value of the CT value, the more the disease. Then if you have a CT of 10, or have a CT of 20, the one of 10 is more sick than the one of 30, of 20. Then the actual one that was very, very perfect was the number 5, the DDP PCR, the droplet PCR. You can measure at each stage the quality of the organism you are seeing. You can get the cause. At the time you get the lifestyle of my result, you see what I'm saying. Then there was another one they used X-ray CT to do in places like Japan, where they didn't have access to quality QT PCR. This is actually to meet the objective of this research, of this workshop, biosafety and biosecurity. You can see the design of the laboratory with the workflow as you have it here. This is sample, somebody is bringing a sample from the world, somebody is bringing a sample from outside, somebody is receiving it in the lab. And here you can see at the background, there is a tricycle that brings the sample from the local government areas. And from this is the first place where you have the highest risk of being infected with an organism. And you can see we do inside something they call a glove box. It's about safety, a PSA3 facility. Then this is the extraction area. You have risk, less risk here. And you now have the master mix where you don't have any risk at all. Then the polymerase area, the only risk you have here is just cross-contamination or contamination of the environment. That is what you have in this section of the setup. So if you miss any step here, you are likely to contaminate the sample, but you work with hand gloves. And there is a glove here, this place is very sterile. But here, it's supposed to be the most sterile environment, but you can only get contaminated with applicants, which is not effective to humans. But you still have to be very careful. And after the PCR, you go for this is the PCR you are seeing. You can see the one that comes out layer from this point here. The one that comes first is higher than the next and higher than the next. This other one was to cross-check whether you are losing RNA products. It comes, you include it through the point of extraction, except the positive PCR and the negative PCR, you don't add anything here, depending on the kit. For some kits, you add it to the positive PCR and the negative PCR as well. However, after the PCR reaction, you go to this sample documentation. This is the spreadsheet of which you recommend your sample. This is what we are sending to the various states and to the NCDC to correct their results, to know where the disease is epidemic. They call it a spreadsheet or worksheet or epidemic sheet. After that, this is our own workstation. We keep this one in the lab as a physical backup. In case your computer data is lost, you can still find the results from here. These were the samples results. As you see, we did it from a period of 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, and ended it in August 2022. You can see the total number of samples here. Sorry. You can see in all these were the, sorry, something is going wrong. There, I'm too fast. You can see these are the total samples we received from 2020, 2022, and 2023. And these were the positives we had from the 3 years. These were the positives, and these were the total cases we treated in our facility. for the various years. Then this year, the result we have from our PCR laboratory have a very good status of samples came from a lot of states in Nigeria because we were the first people who started diagnosing COVID when it started. You can see from the first year we had it from 23 states. The second year we had it from 24 states. And the third year we had it from only 13 states. This is due to the fact that a lot of people have been, a lot of labs have been established as the years was going by. For the initial point, there were only 3 testing labs, one in Abuja, one in Iro, and one in Lagos. So as at that time, we had a lot of samples from every other state. However, even when the federal government has established about 96 after the COVID, we did the COVID time in 2021, we did the period of 2021, and the private laboratories we had there was about 83, making it 179 testing labs for PCR labs in Nigeria. And this were the positive samples we get from the states. All the states you said, most of them had positive, but some states were negative. This is not a holistic view because only some states were closer to our facility, they still bring their samples down here. However, we show the distribution among the gender from 2020, 2021, and 2022 till the month of August 2022. You can see it was almost equal distribution among the gender. This is females, this is male, this is female, this is male, this is female, this is male. They were always of equal distribution in terms of confirmed cases among the gender. From the history of contact among the confirmed cases, at the beginning, we did not have sufficient people willing to tell us where they got their infection from. But as the disease progresses, you can see from the first 2020, there was agitation. People were hiding their status of the disease. They didn't want to tell you much race about it. In the yellow, is that people didn't know where they went to, they didn't want to say it. The red was, they didn't know whether they got across it with any contact. And the green region shows that they agreed that they got in contact with someone who was ill before they got the disease. You can see in 2021, it improved, and in 2022, since there was no longer stigmatization, people were willing to say who they got it from and where they got it from. This is just the epic curve of the disease. You can see from, apart from this first week of 2020, January, February, the first recorded positive in our facility was around the second week of March 2020, that is week 4. So you can see apart of in all the weeks of the year, we had positive throughout, except this. Oh, sorry. In conclusion, well, this is another epic week for 2021, another one for 2022. This is the curve. With all the time, we could not discover the month that we discovered that when the weathers were more cold, or whether the infectivity rate was due to the cold and stress, we couldn't ascertain it because the discussion was that for any diagnosis, you need to take PCR results to treat your samples. And SARS, because of depression, we have improved the depression there. Nobody is no more stigmatized in time. And for conclusion, it's advised that the public should take their vaccines to prevent this pandemic or future pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, a reminder also, if you have questions, put it down so that after all the presentations, we'll take the questions. Now, the last for the session, 292, taken by Joseph Chibuzo. All right, a round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, my very distinguished senior colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Chibuzo Joseph, and I'm going to talk about the assessment of knowledge, attitude, and preventive practices of HIV/AIDS among youth of the AMAC, Abuja Municipal Area Council, in the Federal Capital Territory. Okay. For this study, it's aimed at filling a gap for health educators, for peer counselors, and other stakeholders with the necessary information with regard to knowledge, attitude, and preventive practices among the youths. This study was carried out among youths aged 16 to 25 years in secondary schools, selected secondary schools in AMAC. The objectives was to determine the level of knowledge of HIV/AIDS, explore the relationship between socioeconomic conditions and practices, study attitudes, and identify infection prevention practices. Now, youths are the leaders of tomorrow, and this particular age is a very curious age. So the objectives of this study is to actually know, do they have the right kind of knowledge? And how are they actually putting this knowledge to relate with one another? And what is the level of preventive practices that they're equipped with? What knowledge from sex education in their schools, what knowledge from their communities, and what knowledge from their families? By way of introduction, since 1981, when the first cases were reported in the United States, it's estimated that on a daily basis, there's about 5,000 young people in the world becoming infected with HIV, translating into almost 2 million new infections every year. Now, of this number, from the UNICEF report, we have about 150,000 adolescents between the age of 10 to 19 years. This is a daily rate, an updated report from the UNICEF data report. Now, because this age is quite sensitive, we went to secondary school, and it was really an interesting experience interacting with the youth. It wasn't just about filling the gap, but it was about connecting with the new generation and what was their own side of the story in this study. We, for the purpose of this study, pre-tested standard questionnaires with both open and closed questions were administered. Now, this is a questionnaire developed by the Measure Demographic Health Survey Program. It has already been tried in other states, other countries, and it was adopted for this study. It's already prepared questionnaire with the youth in mind, with questions designed to answer their knowledge on HIV/AIDS. Okay, I'm going backwards. My pointer is not moving. Okay, questionnaires were in 4 sections. The first focused on socio-demographic characteristics. The second had determinant indicators. The third comprised questions on attitude. And the fourth talked about sexual behavioral practices. We wanted to know where they lived, what parts of Abuja, how it affected their knowledge. If those living in the municipal area had better knowledge than those living in the slums, because most of the schools had people coming in from as far as Nasarawa to school in Abuja. We also wanted to know their level of knowledge. We wanted to know the misconceptions. Did they have anything in mind? What exactly were their questions and what were their attitudes towards people living with HIV/AIDS? Some of the questions were, would you still relate with a student who had HIV/AIDS? Would you eat with the person? Would you still relate very well with somebody who had HIV/AIDS and was cooking and selling in your school? would you still relate? Would you still share? Would you still take care of somebody who had HIV/AIDS, knowing the person's status? We analyzed the data with the statistical package of social sciences, and this is the data. We had 32.8% of the study respondents willing to continue their friendship with people living with HIV/AIDS. We had 64.5 believing that a student should continue going to school even though he had HIV/AIDS. We had 29.9% agreeing that if it's a teacher, he should continue lecturing. He should not stop because he had HIV/AIDS. And we had 39.9% believing they could still buy food from somebody who had HIV/AIDS. Now, from the results, we realized that a lot of them had higher knowledge of the transmission of the disease, higher knowledge of how they could contract disease, more than preventive practices. Some of them still went to places like barbing their hair without having their own kids. Some of them still did their pedicures in community settings. They didn't have personal. Some said it was financial, others said it's not a bad thing. So we had to change those misconceptions. I had the consent of the school administrators, and I also had the consent of the participants before I commenced the study. Now, for you to actually get the knowledge, attitude, and practices, I believe it's a useful tool to get the desired intervention to assess the extent to which individuals or community are ready to adopt risk-free behaviors. Now, in relating to biosafety and biosecurity, the right knowledge with the right set of people plays a key role in sustaining biosafety and biosecurity. Now, if you have the youth, which are the leaders of tomorrow, having these knowledge gaps, there's a problem. At the end of the study, I was able to establish to the administrators that there was a need for guidance counselors. There was a need for these people not to be influenced by peer pressure. And there was a need for the program on sex education to be, there were additions to fill up the gaps that were identified in the course of the study. Now, in conclusion, social media plays a key role in passing across reliable and accurate information. And this plays a major role in building sustainability of responses to such pandemics. Thankfully, after the study was done in 2019, I had us to go back to those schools, and I've seen a lot of improvements. Most of the recommendations were adopted, and even on the larger scale, there's been a lot of implementation nationwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know some of us are getting hungry this time. Huh? All right, so we are through with the presentation for this session. So we are going over to question and answer session. I've gotten some questions here with me, and I think this might be okay because we don't really want to spend much time again. Are you bringing more? Yes, I said that you submit the question if you have any. So I'll read out the questions, then the presenter will now have to give us his own reply. So this one goes to Usman Habibu,
The last,
Habiba. Yes.
the one that seemed to be the last also.
It goes like this. Says there's need for NiBSA to commission a national committee on standard checklists for assessing biosecurity standards, biosafety standards of any hospitals or institution. Then he said, as far as the study was, there is no verifier. That is the NiBSA standard checklist for the study. Is this a food for thought? He's just trying to remind us what we would have done, but he says it's a food for thought. That is from Professor Bola Oyepolu. Another observation, most recent journal was 2009, that's 13 years ago. Use of both table and charts to illustrate, to do your illustration. That is for Habiba as well. So I don't know whether he has any comment on that to make.
Thank you. For the first one, the checklist used was a questionnaire where about 33 parameters related to biosafety concepts were analyzed for both the hospitals and in different 3 units of the hospitals. And for the second one, noted.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for her. That settles our own question and observation. Now I'm going to NiBSA John. Okay? When it comes to assessing health institution, NiBSA, we've gone a long distance and it's becoming one of the regulators. In fact, most important regulator in Nigeria. If they cough, the country has to shake. So, in assessing any health institution, I think the National ESCO need to really sit on this and commission a national committee to come up with their checklist, what they really wanted, so that it will be a standard for anybody checking or assessing any institution. That is verifiable. If they don't have that, we will be dilly-dallying. I think the president or any of the ESCO need to
I'll respond. Information, please. On the issue of raising, I think there is an existing checklist. If you prefer, you refer to, for example, Biorab. I don't know whether you have access to Biorab. All these checklists are there. More than 120 parameters are there. So which is used to assess both biosafety and biosecurity for each facility. So I think
we don't know whether that is what NiBSA really wanted until we have it.
I don't know why you are talking of NiBSA. NiBSA is trying to advocate.
Yes.
And there is no conflict between what is obtainable in the standards and what NiBSA is pursuing. They are the same. Yes. Yes.
Say something.
Yeah.
But the point is, for instance, if those things are big in another country, as NiBSA, localizing it to Nigeria now, as NiBSA adopted that, we can use it for our own. That's my point. It's not, I'm not clearing those points, but the point is that to know that NiBSA, as a body in Nigeria, adopted it. And that's what we'll be using. That's just my point.
All right.
Thank you.
Well noted, sir. A round of applause for that discussion. We are getting somewhere. So, now, the next one goes to NiBSA. You'll see, it says, what safety measure was put in place to make sure that the bacillus species was not introduced into the tomato paste? Another thing, hope you're taking notes. How did you determine your sample size? The next one says, going by the fact that you screen processed canned tomatoes, how convinced are you that the microbes you identified were not contamination from the environment? Presence of microbes will generate gases and disfigure the can. What is the link between the contaminants and immunity in poultry? I think that is all for Joseph. Any response? Get the question. You try. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Actually, the safety measure taken during the research was that we made sure that the workbench was thoroughly, cleaned by using disinfectants. And actually, when you are collecting samples on a medium, you actually do it close to a bouncing flame, because it was actually experience that did the work, So maybe there was no hood in the laboratory, but the various appropriate safety measures were taken. Just like I said, that the inoculation was done close to a bouncing flame, so there was no introduction of external bacteria into the media. So the second one, the sample size. Okay, the statistical method was used anyway by my student that carried the work, but I cannot say much about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, next. Okay. The next one is 161. They also need to correct the definition of vector to be more encompassing. Not only arthropods are vectors of disease. An observation by Professor Yefolu. They said, what are the measures to mitigate the rising insecticide resistance for effective vector-borne diseases? I think this one is from 161 as well. Any response?
The presentation tried to highlight reviews methods that have been used to cut down on the escalation of vectors and diseases, particularly globally. I know DDD for 1, 2 has had this resistance, particularly for the disease trichinosomiasis. But for the measures taken to curtail resistance from these chemical methods, I cannot say much about that. I didn't delve into that, but we are together with some of the co-authors. Dr. Tanko is here, Dr. Benson is here. Let me give Dr. Tanko a chance. Dr. T, you want to?
All protocols to be observed. Yes, sir. And there's what we call integrated
vector control method. In that integrated vector control method, it involves several other methods, both from chemical, biological, and all environmental modifications. So these are some of the things that have been put in place to mitigate this resistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Then to Adome, so why was real-time PCR selected as the preferred test for COVID-19 diagnosis against, for example, conventional PCR that is cheaper, as well as other point of care tests? Any response to that?
The conventional PCR is an obsolete method in that if you have contamination, you will not be able to detect it because some other parasites also have the same gel band with the base you have chosen to go with it, the gel band. If you understand, there is a ladder, a gel ladder that is from 10 to 1,000 or something. Some other parasites can also have the same band with what you are looking for. And if it's contaminated, you will not know. For the real-time PCR, where there's contamination, you will know because the curve will not be appropriate, number one, and it's highly specific because you put a control there, there's a control, a positive control, there's a negative extraction control, there's a negative PCR control. And at the same time, there's what we call internal PCR control. So that if you are picking unnecessary RNA from the COVID-19 virus, you will know. You will not pick, you will not see it on the yellow channel. And that's and obsolete, people no longer use it because of its inefficiency. You cannot determine the number of copies per test, number one. You can only get positive or negative. And when you pick a contaminant, you will not know. But in real-time PCR, you will know where you are picking a contaminant.
Thank you, sir. The issue of waste segregation as presented is a major concern for me. COVID-19 came from a lab. Imagine if our labs in Nigeria, due to our poor waste segregation management, become a cause of generating pandemics or disease outbreaks. I wonder what the earth can do to that institution. So for the presenter, if you only recommend NiBSA to intervene, what about the MLSN, who is a regulatory body? Don't you think they should appear in your recommendations, sir? Thanks. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for that. What is the classification of waste segregation? For those with autoclave, how did you ensure the facility autoclave? Yeah. How do you ensure the facility autoclave their waste properly? Any response on that? Yeah.
For facilities that have autoclaves have a way of the way they function. There is an autoclave tape which tells you if you have achieved the purpose of autoclaving, and that's one of the things to be checked. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last one, don't hear from you. Was any literature study done to see reasons why females tend to have higher adherence? She's there to respond.
Just as I said, apart from the questionnaire that was distributed, I personally, I was in most of the laboratory to look at what they are doing.
And then you see that even the men, they are in the laboratory here. They don't really even care about when you are talking about security. So the females are more inclined in looking at the biosecurity. And then you see it again in our home. You see how meticulous we are. So that is just what take on the laboratory.
All right. We thank the presenters for their wonderful presentations and their responses. Also, we are thanking the LOC for this opportunity. And on behalf of the chairman of the committee, I think we will end it here for today. We'll go for our lunch and hopefully we'll kickstart again tomorrow. Yes, 9 o'clock, sir, please. Yes, yeah. When you here, please. Immediately after our breakfast, we are here 9 o'clock. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.